Welcome, everyone.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Matrix Money Tuesday.
Yes, indeed.
It's
how's it going, man?
We have CryptoMindSet over here. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited for this stream. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I am excited.
Yeah, there's already a list of questions in the chat that we're going to go over. We have a special guest today. If you don't already know, we tweeted it out a little bit earlier. It's Yeti. He's in here from Dynex. Just to talk about everything that's going on with the ecosystem. We know there's a lot of questions about mining and what the future project is going to have, as well as an announcement that he's going to be making today on our stream.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to get started?
Yeah, let's bring him on up here.
All right.
All right.
Yeti, welcome.
Welcome, Yeti. Or we should say welcome back, probably. So welcome.
Yeah, it's been a minute, though. It's definitely been a minute.
A few months at least. A lot has happened. And I guess we can start off right now with maybe you just introduce yourself and a little bit of a background for people that might have just joined that don't know who you are.
Right.
Sure. So my name's Clifford Mapp. I'm the head of ecosystem development over at Dynex. So my primary role is to obviously oversee development, staff on our crypto side, and a lot of obviously meetings and conferences. So for those who haven't probably seen me, I'm always flying around these days. I've just got back from a 3-week stop in America, not only holiday, but work. So I thought, well, might as well enjoy taking a bit of time as well while I was over there. So
were you in the southern parts of the US or
East Coast?
Okay.
So,
East Coast.
Yeah, I was over in Delaware.
Okay. That's good stuff. CCM. I know you might already have something off the bat you might want to ask, or how do you want to gauge this right now?
Well, you know what? I did have a list of questions that I wanted to follow up with with Yeti, but I don't know. We have so many questions and more piling in. I'm thinking maybe we jump on in and listen, guys. I appreciate everybody in the chat. We are probably not going to do any shout outs tonight until as we kind of get to you and your question, because man, there's a lot of questions. You good with that, Jar?
Absolutely. And if you're new to the stream and you haven't been here before, hit the subscribe button, pound the like, and we can get started.
All right. Well, shall we start with the very first question that's in there and just kind of work our way through? Does that work?
All right.
Well, then here is the first question in there. Sadie, welcome. Although Sadie may not still be here at the moment. So,
I mean, I'm happy to answer questions. I mean, Sadie actually knows me. Sadie knows the answer to this. The answer is no.
Okay.
You can look up the founder, Daniella Harmon, has completely clean record.
Okay.
So none that I know of.
Okay. Fair enough. Sadie pounded in 3 questions straight off the cuff. So
it's an interesting question, actually. Why did the mining community turn its back? I wouldn't say it's turned its back. The network's still very busy. It's a lot smaller than it was, sure. But then crypto in general has scaled back a lot for a lot of projects.
Yeah, crypto mining in general.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the networks; they've dropped massively from their height, and obviously the overall consensus is that GPU mining has gone away for the moment. So a lot of people I know personally have sold all their farms. 2 people that I know very well, one with a very, very large farm, well in excess of 200 GPUs, recently decided that, it was better for him to take the assets out the equation, get his money back for the time being. And then if he needs to, he'll reinvest and go and get other GPUs as he needs them. But, scaling back your mining aspirations over time is not uncommon with projects. Normally, I mean, most projects end up going to an ASIC, and then therefore, GPU mining goes away naturally in that process. But Dynex is still GPU mineable. Our emission curve is getting a little uncomfortable at times. We've been very open about that and said, right at the very beginning, we put our emission curve way too aggressive. It allowed, early adopters to really gain huge amounts of Dynex, and we're now fighting a never-ending battle to the emission curve, but we're doing our best to try and load up with applications that will require Dynex to use to further those emissions a little bit further.
Okay. Here's the next question that was thrown in here.
Oh, where did all the sell pressure come from? I'd love to know that myself, but chances are a lot of that's going to be early mining, where people were getting huge amounts for very little investment. Places that have free power can obviously cause huge sell pressures. We've seen it with other projects where they're getting hammered by big GPU farms.
Right.
We've even seen a few turn up on Dynex when it first got really profitable, like beginning of the year. We saw a huge GPU farm jump on, to the point that it actually triggered a reaction from our security team internally, because we were concerned that, well, has somebody found a way to actually mine this with an ASIC, for example, right? Or huge FPGA farms and such. So, sell pressure is, I'm not a trader by my own admission. I've got a money guy that deals with it after I almost lost a huge amount of money trading. After that scare, it was enough for me to go, I don't know enough about this, and maybe I should get somebody who does know about this. Unfortunately, I lost my very good friend who was well into his trading. So, he used to help a huge amount. He actually worked for Dynex. It was a huge loss to all of us when Dan went, personally and professionally. So, now I only deal with a money guy for that side of things. But I'd love to know where the sell pressure comes from, because, we can see it. Anyone who can read a chart will see that there's been extensive sell pressure at times. We're still trying to figure that one out at the moment. We've been trying.
Seeing we're on the coin and the pricing a little bit. Yeah. I thought I saw something about having a burn. Did I see something about that?
So we started buybacks with the intention of putting it into a treasury fund, and then that treasury fund ideally never being touched, right? So is it a burn? No, but is it like a burn where it takes it out the circulating supply?
Yeah, out of circulation.
It's just going to sit in there. We've got no real desire to touch it.
Is there like a lock period or anything like that?
No, but we've always said that we would never put that back in circulation till we've got internally some numbers that we've chosen, but it would need a huge amount of trade volume to put that back into circulation. We're talking probably upwards of 250 million a day kind of total, and that would absorb what is locked away and what staff and everything like that hold personally. So to me, it makes no sense to touch it right now. It makes no sense realistically. If everything that we've got comes to plan, we will never need to touch it. At that point, is it much dissimilar from a burn? No. It's just that it doesn't physically take it off the max supply.
Yeah, so if you put it in a treasury, is there an announcement or anything like that, or is there a process that's
it's all listed on our Block Explorer, the wallet. You can see the balance live. We do have the intention to try starting buybacks back up soon. Once we know the income that's going to be generated from Apollo and future chips as well, because we can factor percentages of that in, for example, and accelerate a certain amount of buybacks in a very quick time.
Well, the next question actually is about a treasury, but I think it's slightly different. I'm assuming that the companies he's talking about here are like partner companies. Is that the deal?
Yeah, I guess that from that one is how I read it. It's like almost like, are you going to work with companies either to do something like a DAO, for example, or some kind of third-party company that holds all the money like a money manager kind of thing solution, right? Where then it can be very transparent. We can show what's going in and out kind of thing. And then it's also provided by a third party, which gives it a little bit more validation in that respect. So we're not against looking at things like that at the moment. No. Are we looking at listed, financial companies? Absolutely. There's tons of things that quantum algorithms and quantum tech can do in that industry. So I think you'll be seeing a lot of what we're trying to do in that industry coming along very soon. Actually, there's a couple of clients that we're working with at the moment that are in the financial sector. They're looking at portfolio optimization, things like optimizing their portfolio for when they should get in and when they should get out. Seeing new, probably hidden gems kind of scenario, right, where it can just absorb huge amounts of data to tell whether or not a project might be worth having a early get in or not. So yeah, I spoke to a couple of those while I was in America. They actually flew in to where I was staying and came and actually visited me for a meal and a conversation. So it was really quite a fascinating 4.5 hours of talking. Well, you guys know me, right? I can talk till the cows come home, kind of thing.
Fair enough. Here's the next question. Basically asking, I guess to summarize this, why just you and Daniella as the kind of face of things?
Sure. I mean, it's me probably because I was one of the first to really come on camera and start talking about Dynex behalf of Dynex kind of thing. Daniella obviously is one of the co-founders. She is very active in going to all of these meetings and conferences and a lot of conferences that I wouldn't have expected us to go to, right? Because you have to know people or you have to be in the industry long enough to get those kind of invites. For me, I get invited to the more technical conferences, but maybe not so much things like environmental conferences and so forth, because I'm not really known in that industry. But we're not the only two that have been obviously shown. Our head of QD LLM, Adam, he was recently photographed in Hong Kong with Daniella for a conference. Ivan has been pictured when we went to Dubai for Token 2049. So he's on pictures. Dan, before his passing, he was obviously fully out there and on videos with me personally. So there's a lot of pictures of us all really. It's just that the two primary ones are me and Daniella.
Yeah, you're definitely out there. When somebody says Dynex, it's like boom, it goes to Yeti. Any conversations I've had about Dynex anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, AV in the house here is asking a bunch of questions, quite frankly, here all jammed into one. I don't know how you want to attack that. If you want to attack that, I'll give you the option, I guess.
Recently we announced our Paragon Initiative, which is our next step, shall we call it, on the path of what we're doing. That will cover a lot of what's in that question, right? So quantum nodes, privacy removal, market maker. Obviously, that's going to be very much where we are on course, but never say never to a delay or two.
Right.
In this industry, delays are kind of something that can pop left field, and we have to go and then deal with it. But right now, Paragon's on course for an end of month announcement. So that should then cover off a huge portion of what that question entails. Now, as for the Apollo chip, well, that's a whole nother question that we probably should give a minute to answer in a different way.
Yeah, I know you were thinking about maybe doing that as we kind of went through some of these other questions. Sorry, I was trying to take that out of there and something happened. Sorry about that. You know what? Never mind. I was going to ask a question, but I'm sure we'll get to it. We'll go from there. Do you want to jump in about the Apollo chip now, or do you want to keep going with the questions and then? I don't mind.
We can do a few more questions before getting on to the Apollo chip. I know that everyone's really keen on finding out where the progress of the Apollo chip is.
Okay,
no
well,
doubt I'm going to get messaged from the big boss by tomorrow morning saying, you know, that I'm in trouble as usual for getting too into the information. But hey, I did warn him earlier today when he gave me the information that I was like, you know, that one right question, I'm just going to start talking. And just start talking, and then it'll all come out. So yeah.
I know you've broken a few things here on this podcast. We appreciate it. I know it's probably not great for you, but we appreciate it.
We definitely do. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get to it. Obviously, not so long ago, Russian community Telegram stated and bam. Here you go.
Yeah. So, can Dynex's quantum solution be used to crack Bitcoin wallets? I've answered this a couple of times actually.
Yes, you did.
The potential is yes, right? Have we ever tried? No, I don't see the need. Plus, now with our new security systems in place, it practically is impossible to go after that kind of processing power with us. However, obviously, we've been working tirelessly on the fact that once this scales to a size that is worrisome, then we need to obviously have solutions in place. One of the solutions is obviously the security mechanism.
So you just said, sorry, just to jump in there for a second, you just said yes to that claim, but you're not able, you haven't actually tried to reproduce it. Is there a way for someone to validate that it's possible?
Yeah, there or thereabouts. I believe it's 10 million qubits, give or take.
Okay.
Would be what we would require to do it. It would take a huge chunk of the network, and right. Even then, it's not going to be instant. It's not like what people believe, where it'd be like, oh, like you just ran it and immediately it would be done. No.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're instead of it taking, you know, if you were to use a big GPU farm, you'd probably do that in about 11 months. But you'd have to have the resources capable to run that kind of compute for that kind of time, right? We're talking huge supercomputing data power at that point.
Yeah, that sounds pretty groundbreaking because from everything else I've heard in the discussion, we're about 5 years away from that sort of discovery.
Yeah, and I keep saying to people that we're probably very closer than people think, because, you know, I've been around long enough to know that it only takes one leap and then suddenly that has a domino effect. Right. One thing leads on to another thing that leads on to another thing that leads, and ultimately then you've already started that snowball process, and instead of it taking 5 years, it takes less than a year. So we know that at some point we're going to be big enough that we would be troublesome to things like Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is not the thing that bothers me nearly as much as the fact that, you know, there are still security systems out there that run on the same fundamentals.
Right.
The technology that underpins Bitcoin.
Right.
And that's more scary to me as a person that has bank accounts, as a person who has, you know,
or national security. That's a huge,
you know, that's infinitely more scarier because that's infrastructure attacks, and that's a whole different concept. That's you ending up with a 3-letter agency tapping on your door and saying, can we have a private conversation, please? And you not being able to say no, kind of thing. So, you know, for us to feel safe, the day that I started was the day that, you know, I started work on something to combat that. Like I say, the first part of that equation was, can we scan the very fundamentals of the job that's running, and without having to decrypt the entire job, can we detect what our network is doing at the time? Loosely, it doesn't have to be perfect, because if it's loose and it blocks a job that it shouldn't, well, then that client can come to us and we'll personally exempt it from that system, and then it'll be able to be run. So, you know, that was step one. Step two is a little bit more, should we say, a big step forward. And, you know, I just told you guys before we came online, like, that's the next big thing, and is a must if we're going to be starting to deliver, you know, large amounts of room temperature quantum chips, like like no one's been able to having access to before now, right? It's that leap forward again. We talk about it. We start delivering those, and suddenly your everyday person now has access to quantum, which up until now they'd never had that access. Right. Now you're in a different conversation entirely.
Well, yes. I guess I'll bring that question up now, and maybe that'll you can go ahead into that announcement.
I think it probably works well with this question, doesn't it? So,
yeah,
will the fully workable new chip be presented this year, and if yes, where? Okay, so I'll answer the first part. Will the new chip be available this year? Yes, it's actually a little bit further ahead than we were expecting. Some extra refinements have been done. PCBs are now being screen printed and ready for batch production.
Wow.
So I actually get my prototype to work on probably in 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So just in time for my birthday.
Perfect. And then my prototype comes
Happy
after.
birthday.
But yeah, the other part to that is that obviously we've looked at the benchmarks. We're very happy with the benchmarks. If actually a little bit surprised by the benchmarks, but it's also led us down another path that opened up because of it. We're going to produce not only a room temperature quantum chip, but we're going to repurpose any that don't meet our specifications that are just underneath that threshold kind of thing, like what you'd call like a poor bin kind of scenario. And convert them into what will be the very first quantum compute card designed specifically around quantum encryption. So think of it this way: nothing on a PC is truly random, right? You can reverse engineer a PC knowing its time, its date, and so forth, and be able to reverse engineer the random number it might generate you. Right? It's how a lot of people manage to bypass password generators, for example. If you know the exact date and time and a machine UID, you can actually start to reverse engineer the ability to actually get that random number out.
Huh, okay.
What would you do if you had a quantum chip do the randomness for you using a 16-bit adder and 16 qubits worth of compute, or even 32-bit qubits worth of compute? Even a GPU can only simulate about 10 to 12 qubits worth of compute. So anything above that, and it technically could help with things like securing keys. 2FA could make use of it. But think of this like a dedicated card. Specifically, its only purpose is going to be to provide quantum encryption methodologies. So that'll be then completely open sourced. We're going to open source not the chip, but the actual software that runs the chip. We're going to open source that so that then companies, users, hardware wallets even can actually make use of those if they so wish to. I think actually it's got as much a benefit as room temperature quantum has. Like if we're looking at that stage where everyone has a quantum chip in their PC, then we need to come out with it, quantum encryption, before that becomes a reality.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the same as if tomorrow somebody turned around and said, "Oh, they've breached RSA, 4096 or whatever it is, right? And it's the top spec military grade encryption." There better be somebody also turning around the same day and saying, "Well, we've already got that in ready and in the works," kind of thing. So for us, it's something that I've had a big passion about. I've not made any different statements around that ever since the first day I got involved with Dynex. My first role solely has been, can we produce a quantum solution to not only buy us time, but protect, because it's not going to be long before those possibilities become a reality, and we better have those things ready beforehand.
Yeah.
So, so basically those will be launching at the same time as Apollo comes out. So not only we're doing one type card, we're doing two. Nothing like giving ourselves more work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with these cards, what's the price range that's going to retail at?
The prices are still coming in.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing if we can get them any cheaper. I think the first batch is going to be the priciest of them all, obviously, because we're only running off 100.
Yeah.
Once we start scaling up, I believe the next pricing point is like 1,000 kind of thing, and then it drops quite considerably, and then 10,000 again, it drops quite considerably.
Right.
We might be able to also source some of our parts from alternative suppliers other than where the fabricator gets it, and then we can obviously make savings where we can. But right now, the price is fluctuating a little bit, so I'll hold off getting myself too much in trouble by giving a price.
It's going to be a little crazy then.
Yeah. Fair enough, man. I'll tell you what. Just listening to that, I'm scaredy. I'm like a scaredy cat right now, thinking about.
No, I am too. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Ultimately, people who use this kind of solution, or whoever is in security, will understand this. Most security people are all on dark websites, trying to keep the finger on the pulse of what's coming. And I've already seen some proof of concepts of quantum cracking already on the dark web. And that's scary enough, right? They just don't have the compute power available to them to go large scale examples. They can only do a small case proof of concept.
Yeah.
So, that to me says, well, if they're already playing it on the dark web and they've got proof of concepts that they just haven't been able to fully test yet, chances are they're still a way away from it yet. But even so, seeing proof of concept scared the hell out of me.
It's scary, very scary.
For me, I want to be ahead of that curve. I want to stay one step ahead. Well, the way we stay one step ahead is either buy ourselves some time with some sort of intermediary product, or fix it entirely and say, well, it's dealt with before it becomes a problem.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my thought.
Let's go with that.
We get ahead of it. If we can be 2-3 years ahead of the curve, then that gives us a little bit more comfort to know that as we scale up, we're not going to be the root cause of all hell breaking loose.
Right. Damn.
Wow.
Okay. I think we need to reset the room and change topics here a little bit. Well, not topics, but yeah. Whew. I need to shake that off. Welcome, everybody. I can see a bunch of people have kind of just chimed in here. I appreciate all of you. We'll give shout outs as we kind of go through the comments and questions. If you got questions, put them in there. Yeti has graciously said he's going to try and answer them all if he can. If not, maybe we'll have to do something as a follow-up later on. So please get your comments in there, and don't forget, smash up that like button. We really appreciate that. Okay, let's go to coin price and so on right here, and the Newts in the house, and 100 Air, I see you. Welcome, man. When tier 1 exchange, I mean, I'll tell you, getting my hands on because I've been trying to DCA into Dynex, and it's like
it's been hell for me because I'm in the UK and like 99% of all of our exchanges are barred in the UK, so been absolute hell trying to do that. We are trying to do our best to get a listing that's suitable. Tier 1s might be a bit more reality wise currently than it has been in the last couple of months, due to the fact that last couple of months we were hearing all kinds of prices from quite reasonable to absolutely insane and would cripple us as a business to even think of spending $1 million on a listing.
Some of them are just gouging.
And then we also have some that say, oh, we do free listings, and then you get you spend 4 hours in a conversation with them going through all the technical side, only for them to say, oh yeah, by the way, we charge you for the integration. Well, if you're charging me for the integration, then it's a listing fee, right? No, it's an integration fee. So yeah, it's back and forwards constantly. I speak to, and so does our head of exchanges and all the crypto exchanges side of it, out of space. He very much has been in contact every other day trying to get the right listing, right? Because we could go and get a ton of really terrible listings. We could have them tomorrow. We could show that we've got 50 different crypto exchanges, but then do we want 50 crypto exchanges with zero volume? Because that looks equally
right. Right.
You know, it's kind of crazy. You know, we've heard of, you know, some networks being held completely hostage for their listings, to the point where, you know, some are asking for 20% of their entire supply just as well as a listing fee. And you're thinking, well, if that's the case, how do you expect any of these projects to survive, you know, at all? It's just crazy. So I would love a tier one tomorrow. But with our low volume right now, most tier ones are not looking at anything that's that low. Does it mean that we couldn't? No. I mean, in this industry, money does talk. You know, you throw down big numbers and suddenly you'll get a listing. It's just, we want the right one.
Yeah, it has to make sense. MEXC is a good listing that I see that you have right now.
Yeah,
although I have my own disagreements around MEXC personally.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of volume on MEXC. I won't deny that. A lot of Chinese and Asian markets use MEXC. They have a good volume and a good organic volume.
No KYC in a lot of cases.
They're KYC
unless
now.
You live in the unless you live in the US, you can't. I can't get in there.
Unfortunately, I can't use it in the UK. You know, I can't use it while I'm in the US either. So, you know, similar to Gate, those are both blocked in the UK as well. For me, it's been Biconomy or xt.com, or obviously now that Ethereum's transaction fees are a little bit more respectable, I don't mind going and grabbing some you know, wrapped Dynex, but I'd rather have the native token, just personally.
Sure. Absolutely.
I just don't want the hassle of having to, every time I want to convert it back across and wrapping and unwrapping it, it's just a longer process for me. And considering that I've got a lot of you know, things on my plate, waiting for things to wrap and unwrap is just a nightmare.
You ain't gonna hear an argument from me, man. I'll tell you what, been trying to DCA, like I said, a little bit more, and it's been, I've gotten to the point where I'm gonna like start paying people to use MEXC just because to get my hands on something and hope for the best. I mean, I don't know, but anyway. Now I don't know if you want to expand on this anymore. I know we've already kind of touched on the chip, but where it's talking about fees, burn, staking, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So we already have our holders incentive program, which is our take on effectively staking. Right? I hate using that term though. It's too narrow for what ours can do. We've got holders on Ethereum wrapped token, and we've got holders on our native token. We're now in the process of obviously activating that for everyone to use, whether it be native or wrapped. Then you've got a choice. For a long time, it was only wrapped because obviously contracts make it a nice, easy possibility to do any kind of staking rewards or any kind of rewards in general. It was a little bit more tricky to make sure it's all valid and working on our native chain. But yeah, we're actually in the process of integrating it into our other two wallets right now. So we've got it in the web wallet right now, but the Electron wallet and the QT wallet are next up on the list. So hopefully there'll be all of that. There won't be a problem. Now, as for use of the token, we've been actively, you know, looking at actually building apps for Dynex coins to be used on. So that might be, I don't know, a portfolio optimization option where you upload it, what you're into, whether it be stocks and shares or crypto side of it. And then it can obviously offer you that portfolio optimization. You know, there's a good load of different things we got in the pipeline. Two-way messaging app, which is something that's really interesting to me again, because it can use quantum encryption for the 2 key handshakes, and you could literally pay. All you would need to do is pay the Dynex for the key exchange, right? So you would pay a small transaction fee every time you initiate a new contact's conversation. But once you are already talking, you could effectively continue talking because that key handshake pair has already been done.
Right.
It would only be for new conversations.
So is that something that's already rolled out, or is that something that's
we showed a proof of concept of it. We're actually in the process of actually integrating it more fully now into a full-blown messaging app. I like the idea of a fully encrypted network that is directly P2P, so there's no middleman server, right? It's instantly connecting you to the person you're speaking to, and that's why you need to do the quantum key handshakes on both sides of the equation, that is as well. So it's not just you as the user, you have to also have the person on the other end also pay Dynex to effectively create their keys for that handshake. So that's going to be interesting and go quite nicely with our new quantum encryption card. Obviously that could be its first applicable use case straight out of the box, could be for a messaging app, so that it encrypts all your data in and out.
Now, I'm going to bring this up and add a question into it, because I did see one of the things I was going to ask you about was the mobile wallet, because I did see the announcement about that. Do you see that messaging app being like built into this when it's like
that is the overall goal.
That is the goal.
Is to actually build the apps directly into the wallet so that you can make use of them directly, and then that way it's just as simple as signing a transaction within your wallet and you can start using the app. I already started work on it at the beginning when I started doing the Electron wallet. You probably have noticed, if you've ever used it, is that there is an addresses area where you can store people's wallet IDs. Well, that's going to be the fundamental start to how to build like a contact list. So it'll be how do we get it so that it knows where to send the request for signing the other side of the transaction and paying the fee that side. Your wallet ID is probably the best ID in that regard, because right. So then inside and we've just got to work out how we're locking that into the blockchain side as well, because I want some sort of record that the key pair has actually took place. It won't say who or who between, for obvious data privacy protection, right? But there should be something that gets stored on the blockchain of some sort of record that a key handshake has taken place. And then that way, you know, we can have a go.
Gotcha. And I just, again, I appreciate everybody being in the chat. We're gonna shout out to everybody. Appreciate all of you. I am skipping through the questions because, again, we're already 40 minutes in, and we're about halfway through questions here at this point. So don't want to burn Yeti out. But if you got questions, put them in there, and we're gonna try and get to them today. Amplifier Gaming, welcome. And anything, I know you talked about the nodes and so on earlier, but anything else you want to add with regard to
so I would say version 1.1 of the quantum nodes are now running. That has the new Dynex quantum samplers involved, so that's our new V2 sample set system. If you thought version 1 was fast, version 2 is infinitely off the scale faster. Kind of blew my mind. Like, we weren't talking like a 2 or 3x performance jump. In some situations we were seeing 50x performance jump.
Jeez. Okay.
So that's what really told us that the room temperature quantum chip could work, was that fundamental core of the version 2 sample set is what runs Apollo. It is Apollo's core code at the core fundamentals of it.
How many of the quantum nodes are running right now?
Right now, I think there is 6 right now.
Okay.
That are dedicated Q nodes. Right now, it's primarily supplying most of the compute for Sony University courses that we're running. Everything else that's pay as you go or anything like that would all be on the blockchain side. So, but yeah, we plan on rolling those out. They've actually been a bit delayed. There's mainly the delays with Q nodes came because at first we were expecting version 1 samplers to be running on Q nodes. Then because it ran a little bit delayed, we ended up saying, okay, version 2 now is available. Well, we should probably integrate that. So that had a knock-on effect. But ultimately, we need it out because QD LLM, so our version of quantum LLMs, is going to need version 2. It needs that performance uplift for inference learning. So, you know, being able to generate huge, vast amounts of tokens to actually have a conversation with an AI LLM is something that's going to need the version 2 sampler. There's just no choice in that matter. So we were kind of boxed in by our own choices. Never a bad thing to have, but you know, we should integrate something that potentially has 50x performance increase. You know, that's not a bad thing to have to do, but it's caused a bit of delay with Q nodes. But those are going to be paid in raw fiat. That's not going to be paid in Dynex.
Oh,
Q nodes is a proper fiat thing and have to be KYC'd. There's no way around that.
Are these nodes something that people could run on their own, or is this all going to be in-house? So this is going to be publicly available.
Yeah, they're going to be publicly available. The idea is actually that Q nodes will have a tie-in for lockup of some form of Dynex.
Okay.
Amounts to still be determined. We originally thought 10,000, but depends on obviously what the price is at. If the price is at what it is now, 10,000 is fairly reasonable. If it's, you know, $5 a token, suddenly 10,000 seems a little bit extreme for the everyday user.
Sure.
Sure. So it'll be dynamically priced, I think.
And
is the way it'll work.
Spec-wise, what are you looking at for running a node?
That's a good question. Right now, we're going to have 2 forms of Q node. Ones that are going to have obviously the room temperature quantum, and ones that are going to have GPU, because the GPU ones need to be running in a different mode so that they can switch between jobs and blockchain. Whereas the dedicated room quantum, obviously those will stay solely for Q node quantum jobs only. They won't touch the blockchain. We don't even want to get involved in having all the conversations with people about could we turn it into a glorified miner?
Right.
No is the answer. No.
Right.
Just putting it out there. Yeah,
no, it's not happening. Mainly because one of those chips could absolutely destroy a network if it was actually unlocked to do that kind of thing.
Right.
It just makes no sense to us to go destroying the industry that basically gave us the chance to do this. Makes no sense to me.
Okay.
Oh, the nodes is an interesting thing because I run the node factory, and it might be a way to be something for us to offer to our community as well, if we can portion it out. If the staking amounts are more than...
Wow, I didn't even think about that, Jar. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Definitely an option, for sure.
Sure. Cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, the next question also from Amplifier Gaming here. Anything you want to throw in on that?
Actually, that bit of news came out while I was in America. So people have been very skeptical because obviously it's a lot to digest technical wise, right? You need to have a certain level of understanding of the tech, its stack itself, to understand how it works and such. But we've slowly been working on ways to get that better. Better documentation, for example, user guides, videos on how to run this kind of stuff. They're all in the pipeline as well. But ultimately, we just had a huge validation from FSE, fintech company, who have just been doing a full published white paper almost on Dynex's potential, them running their own benchmarks, Obviously, we had to lend them a hand because they didn't have anyone with that level of expertise. But once they were able to understand the tech stack, they were able to run all the benchmarks independently, completely de-restricted. Then they weren't put on a special kind of package that allowed them to have better performance. It was exactly like they were just an everyday customer using our service. So they were able to run everything. The report's very extensive. I believe it's 28 pages long. So it's a rather deep dive into Dynex and its potential. We linked that in our Discord. It's on Medium, and I believe it's on our social media. So they're all. Please feel free to go take a look, because I spent the time to read that, quite in depth. Even on my holiday, because I knew how important that's been for us, right? We discussed this in our last chat, actually, funny enough, the validation part. Validation for that is super, super important, because nobody takes you seriously without that level of validation. And because of that, we've now got another person that's actually reached out to us quite recently, last couple of days, who said now he would like to do a validation. It's going to be probably a 20-page white paper on it as well. So it's that snowball effect. One leads to another that leads to a few more, and suddenly then you've got like 10 people doing it all at the same time. So we're very, very proud.
That's exciting. That helps your network and everything all together. So absolutely.
It's been something that's been top of the agenda list since, oh blimey, literally within the first couple of months of me joining was validation of the technology.
Okay. And I've also linked in the chat the Medium page for anyone that's interested in that.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect. Thank you. And all right, let's move. Whoa, is that the right one? Oh, that's not the right one, is it?
That was a good question, though, that you pulled
we'll go with that. And I think I missed a couple. I'll go back. So here you go.
So I really like this one, right? So if we're at the size we're at, and there are companies out there with a larger option, there isn't many. But if we're talking like actual quantum, there's none that would get even close, right? The largest physical, that's based on quantum mechanics, is like 1100 qubits. It's not big, and it's super resourceful, takes a huge ton of liquid helium to cool it down. God knows how much power. I think it's in the 10,000 watt range just to run it. It's not possible at the moment on a physical quantum. Now, emulated quantum, now we're getting into the realms of what IBM does, D-Wave, us, and a few others that have now, Quantinuum, I believe, has one as well. Now that's very different. But I think we might have been ahead of the curve on this one a little bit. When we had an ethics committee announcement and said that we've got an ethics committee, IBM just announced they've got one going in.
I was going to ask you about your ethics thing. That was something we
talked about. I think we were already seeing where this was heading before it happened, kind of thing, that ethically they're going to have to be responsible for who uses these systems, right? The last thing we want is like somebody with nuclear capabilities using a quantum machine. That would be really bad, because they might be able to perfect a missile delivery system that is completely brand new that nobody can stop. That would be really bad, right? And this is what IBM was saying in their demonstration when they announced their ethics committee, was that they're scared about that exact thing happening, right? Of people using it for bad intentions. There will always be people that try to use any technology for bad intentions. All we're doing is trying to put up as many brick walls to try and slow down the progress of that. So, an ethics committee was something that I could see being a must the day I joined, for example. It still took us a year to get it formally on paper, how it was going to work, how the tech was going to integrate with it, how, that the ethics committee, or at least from Dynex's perspective, is completely separate from Dynex. It's not made up of Dynex staff, although a couple of Dynex staff sit on that board. They don't have voting rights to any of that, right? So I sit on it because I'm the head of the security department, but I don't get a vote on whether a job is allowed to be ran or not, because that's a conflict of interest and it's
Right.
biased.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Whereas, you know, if we've got 5 people from a third party, 5 different companies with different varying views, we're going to get an honest opinion on it. And I think that's much better way of doing it personally. The problem is that there's only so many people like that have that expertise. So we're probably going to see a few people sit on multiple ethics committees, I suspect, at the beginning, or at least until there's more people available for that service.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something that is super important. And I think even the rest of the quantum companies out there are now seeing that as the same thing, where they go, "Ooh, we might need to look into this and be more ahead of that problem starting to happen."
Yeah, and finding the right people, vetting them, and getting them on this committee is going to be a challenge in its own, because you have to understand the technology thoroughly before you can actually understand its impact.
Agreed.
So you can see the challenges with that.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, another head scratcher. And then Daniel had a question here. So with regard to some wallets.
So there was some conversation happening around while I was away in America about some wallets that control a very large portion of Dynex. However, I believe 2 of those were actually fusion wallets, so they're slightly different the way that they work. They technically don't hold the crypto, but they still calculate the total, because it's effectively reading directly from the blockchain, right, as in and out transactions. However, they are there to allow, so this is where integrated wallets, and I'm going to get a little technical, so I do apologize for the nerdiness, but integrated wallets stack underneath the main wallet, right? So you only can see the ins, you can't see the outs. So of course it looks a much bigger number than it actually is. We've gone over it a couple of times on how we're doing it. It's basically because we had a lot of miners using our web wallet to dump their coins in. So there was a ton of small transactions, which caused our chain, or the public chain for that ledger, to get exponentially massive, to the point that we had to down the web wallet for 2 weeks to fusion it manually. And that just didn't sit right with us, right? We don't want to lock you out your funds for 2 weeks. That seems really illogical, right? So we came up with a solution which was internal fusioning, where it can actually detect a mining reward versus a transaction from, say, an exchange. And the reason why we know that is because all of our mining pools wallets are tagged on chain. So we can actually know every wallet for every pool. So we can then split it out and go, okay, if it's come from this wallet, it's got to be from mining because it's come from a pool, right? So we were able to split it out. So, but as for the rest, I need to look into that. I've got the security department, and there's 6 of us now in the security department, looking up the wallets to make sure they're doing as they should do, or if it might be that one of our pools has changed wallet IDs and now it's coming from a different ID, and they haven't just told us that they've changed wallets. That's happened before. We've had a couple of pools where they've just changed wallets and didn't tell anyone. So then we're wondering why there's a huge amount of rewards in this wallet, only to find out it's one of the pools, or one of the pool owners or one of the developers. But we'll get through all of those, and I'll get a full breakdown probably next week, mostly. I'm pretty ram-packed full of work this week. Yeah, I've been just playing catch-up since I got back from America, unfortunately.
I was going to say, I can't see you ever having a slow week. Just saying.
No. Well, I mean, the slow week was while I was on holiday.
Oh, there you go. A little vacation. I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Viva Blanca with the question here about the web wallet.
Yeah, so the web wallet had some issues with newly imported wallets, or at least like a certain batch of them hadn't sunk up to our system properly. I know that Ivan and his team are currently working on that. I believe they're getting through them very quickly. I think that we're down to less than 30 wallets now that still need fixing. So we've got through most of them now. and it was only a small batch before we managed to fix the problem. So,
okay, fair enough. Let me scroll off to the next question because there's a lot of conversation going on in the chat, which I love, by the way. Keep it coming, but here we go. So Max W, capital selling and dumping Dynex holders. I don't know. I kind of feel like we may have skirted.
Yeah, we probably covered off some of that, but
yeah,
I mean, absolutely, it could be the fact that we did a few OTC deals. I don't think so though, because all of those have already been calculated. I didn't hear anything internally about any of the few VCs that we've dealt with just dumping on us. I haven't heard of anything internally, so I can definitely have a look though, and if there is something to be said, then we're the first to say that we're trying to be as transparent as possible. That's something that I've been pushing for since the day I joined, more transparency. But there's obviously a limit to the transparency we can do, given that we're not just in the Web3 world, we're in the Web2 world as well. So, that comes with a bit of we have to play that off one to the other and be very careful where we set ourselves on that one.
I get it. I don't know. I feel like I should probably have known the answer to this question, but
I was just looking for an article on that and I couldn't find any.
Although Microsoft's take on doing quantum computing is to not just go down the traditional route of working out qubits and traditional methodologies. They develop their own fabric layer that effectively can do states. That's it there.
Yeah. This is the only thing I could find.
Yeah, that's actually, it's even harder to measure what that potentially does in qubits, because it's a completely new way of even building a chip, which says to me that it's going to be a while before we see those even potentially be available to the general market, because that was built over 10 years. That was 10 years of development to get to that stage.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Fascinating bit of tech, really is. Absolutely.
Is this is this comparable to Google's Willow, or is this completely?
Google Willow, think of that more like a quantum ASIC, because it was able to do quantum calculations, but it was only ever able to do one type of calculation.
Well, it's funny because there's a question for that right here. I'll bring it up.
That's where Willow upset me a little bit, because when they released that, they made a big, huge song and dance around it. But then
they did.
When you actually read the white paper and documentation, it said that if it ran anything else, it would probably be at the bottom of the benchmark list. So
cherry picking the results. Okay.
Unfortunately, they made effectively a quantum capable ASIC.
Okay.
Which is fascinating in its own right. Don't get me wrong. That's really fascinating. Like being able to make an ASIC out of analog technology, right? And be able to effectively build something that can do that. That's a lot of money in R&D to do that. A hell of a lot.
Oh, hell yeah. Anything else you want to expand on this? I mean, I don't know. I just, where you were talking about that, I thought I'd bring
actually a very good question. Yes and no is the answer to that, because quantum encryption, obviously, that's software based, right? So that's however good your coding is for the computational system you're connecting to. So if you build quantum encryption for IBM, you're using probably IBM's Qiskit package, and that's capable to run on Dynex, right? 3 lines of code change and away it goes. So could the same be ran on Dynex as IBM? Yes. Same with D-Wave technology. Again, it's interoperable. We've tried to make our solution be as interoperable as many frameworks as possible. We've developed an SDK to build against, but we don't want to go down of building an entire framework for ourselves, because at the end of the day, it limits the number of people able to use it. If we can make ourselves interoperable with everyone, then it's just a case of here's the lines you need to change from to run it on IBM to Dynex, or here's the option of what you need to change to run instead of D-Wave, you run it on ours instead. And as we're trying to get as many of those as possible. So we're now compatible with IBM Qiskit, which is obviously really quantum circuits. You've got D-Wave's DiMod package, which is quantum annealing. You've got Google Circ, which is quantum mechanical circuits, but very similar to Qiskit, but with their own unique twist. And there's a few more that we're actively integrating with. Penny Lane's just another one that we integrated with quite recently. That's shown massive promise for things like reinforcement learning. Penny Lane is amazing for that. So, that's why I did my quantum chess game that I took to Amsterdam with us in March. I trained all that on using Penny Lane.
Okay, so a lot of that went over my head. Every time you're on, I feel more and more dumb. So I have no follow-up questions with that.
Well, don't worry, the chat's got your back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure I'm going to be doing another hour on our own Discord at this rate, probably.
Now,
our level set.
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
address the question, but this whole fandango, I mean, it'd be interesting to get the quantum perspective on this.
Right.
I mean, I've had this theory discussion with a number of people now about how good could a quantum mining program actually be, right? So could it be fast enough? Do I think the public network could keep up? I'm not sure, because you've got the latency punishment of obviously uploading the job, decrypting the job, and then unloading it and then putting it back onto the chain. However, could it be able to be done using our quantum cards? I mean, that would be really exciting bit of research, but also would give me big, huge pause. Like, that could destroy networks. Like, you could theoretically put a big quantum network on there, absolutely savage the difficulty to the moon, and then just disconnect your miner, and suddenly that network is now stalled. It's never going to move because the difficulty rating's gone so far up that nothing else could touch it. And therefore you'd need that quantum machine to come back on to then effectively slow down the difficulty rating, or you'd have to wait until it readjusts. And as we've seen with other networks, like Ergo got hit when the Ethereum merge happened, right? Everyone moved over to Ergo. Their difficulty went scooting through the roof. Everyone realized it was really unprofitable, so turned off. And now their difficulty is stuck at really high. And it took nearly a month to get through one epoch, which is really bad, right? Because at that point, their network's pretty stalled out. So we definitely don't want that to happen. We'd never want to be that kind of company to be screwing around in the industry that gave us the ability to do this in the first place.
Makes sense. And I know we covered a lot about the chip, but let's talk about MCA here.
Yes, I mean, we're actually in the process of getting all the validations done for the chip, also the encryption side of it. So we got we've got a couple of big security platforms that are going to validate the possibilities of running quantum encryption directly on card. So if you had an Apollo chip, you could make use of it for quantum encryption. You wouldn't need to buy the specific card that we're going to do. But if people only want it for quantum encryption, then we're going to do a streamlined version, basically, that will have, instead of it saying 1,000 qubits, it might only say 100, right? Because it's just a chip that has not met our specifications to reach that 1,000 qubits of compute. So you might be lucky, you get one that's got 700 qubits worth of compute, but it's going to be so restricted down. Its only purpose is for doing quantum encryption. So, but ultimately, that's something that I'm looking forward to. It really is. It's probably the biggest one that I've been looking forward to for a few months now.
Yeah, that launch is gonna be big.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be getting up some air miles, that's for sure.
Racking them up.
No, the web wallet mining is absolutely fine now. We've actually fixed that problem. That's why we actually have the Fusion system in place now.
Because you had altered it for a couple of weeks, right?
So Fusion is actually something that's built into anything that's, Monero, CryptoNote, any of those base functionalities are all built in there. So, even Monero has Fusion functions. It's just that normally you have to do it all manually, right? And when you're doing a big, huge web wallet with, 400,000 wallets in there, ranging from a couple of transactions on their UTXO chain to some of them needing, almost 2 days to fusion thousands and thousands of little tiny mining rewards. We needed to take care of it. It was sucking up like 60% of our time every week to deal with. Okay. It's just not a good way of being. So we decided enough was enough and we pulled the trigger and got it done. Now it works really well. It was a bit of a hassle at first because we turned it on and our web wallet went, okay, I need to fusion 1.8 million transactions, which took about 3 weeks because we realized that there was a cap on how many we could do per block, because otherwise we were just filling up blocks and then nobody could transact. Okay. So we actually had to back it off a bit and give some overhead for actual normal transactions to go through. Fair. So yeah, bit complicated, but we got there in the end. Okay.
Fair enough. And Bassam with a question here.
Current number of GPUs is around 5,000, whereas it's about 100,000.
Yeah, so right now you are right. It's about 5,000 GPUs. It picks up when there's a little bit more profitability to around 6,000 GPUs. Yes, at one point we believe there was over 100,000, but that was when emissions were absolutely pumping. We were the most profitable thing out on the market to mine. We had some rather large GPU farms on the network as well. One that I actually saw pictures of was well in excess of 800 GPUs down in Argentina. Crazy size building. Like they had an entire building just mining on GPUs. Like, wow. God only knows how much that was running them electric wise, but for electric down there in certain places. So of course, South America is very cheap for power in general terms compared to, America, and definitely compared to the UK. I think mine's now just under 38 cents a kilowatt I pay here. Yeah. Okay. It sucks.
Yeah, that's
it really does. But, it's not quite as bad as back at, COVID time when we were paying 55, 56 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Man, good Lord. I know we already talked about exchanges, but it's more the second sentence that I thought maybe you'd want to address, or the second question, rather.
No, we just don't want to spend irresponsibly, right? There's a time for spending, and there's definitely not a time for spending. When markets are like, the way we are now, and you see this in stocks and shares with big, the S&P 500, you see it with all the big companies, right? Yeah. They're all scaling back. Yep. Why? Because people aren't spending money right now. So you need to spend wisely. I'd rather spend $1 million on developing our chip than spend it on a tier 1 listing right now, because the money that it could generate could then go and get us our tier 1 listing afterwards.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm with you with that thought process, because it makes sense once these exchanges here see what's going on, man. It's just that exposure is gonna push,
exactly, and
push it over the edge.
You can't really. I always say this. You can, but it's absorbent amounts of money. But you can't put a price on delivering a product like that, right? A first time mover product. I did it 12 years ago with my UK business. We absolutely went in and caused hell for a lot of the established companies, right? And we're doing the same again with Dynex. We're going to cause hell with a lot of established companies, whereas they're all, laying off people. We haven't had to really lay off anyone, so to speak, right? We've had contracts come to an end, of course, because they're contracted for 6 months, 12 months, and that sort of thing. But you know, we haven't really lost our core people that are involved in Dynex. They're still here. So you know, being sensible with our money is how we survive, you know, dry spells and so forth. Look how many projects have died off every time we've gone into like a real tight squeeze on crypto. We see
Exactly.
How many exchanges in the last 6 months?
Yep.
You know, it's not us not having money, it's just not us wanting to spend money irresponsibly.
Makes sense. And John has another question here.
Is Paragon a turning point? See, now Paragon is one piece of the puzzle. I think it's the biggest piece of the puzzle, but ultimately that is designed to combine what we've got coming for blockchain business side, but also the things like, you know, the card, the QPU, the next gen in quantum encryption. You know, it's all parts of one big whole picture that we've been racing towards for a long time. It's just that certain pieces of that picture are bigger than others. Some might seem really big, but actually in the grand scheme of things are very small. And other things that seem really small and insignificant could be some of the biggest things that we need to address and deal with. You know, like it's very dynamic where we're in for a technology stack. We have to be as fluid as possible with what we're doing, right? If something new pops up and we need to address it, you know, or a new piece of tech that can run on quantum comes out, we've got to be ahead of that and say, okay, well, we need to get that integrated, and actually that needs to be integrated a bit quicker than we maybe might first anticipate. We might go, oh, well, it takes 3 months. And then all of a sudden everyone's jumping on it and starting to use it. And we're thinking, okay, we need to now ramp this up and move it to a month away rather than 3 months away. So it's certainly interesting.
Yeah, the
never
piece
a dull
of
day.
moving.
Never a dull day.
Absolutely.
And I just want to highlight this. It's not a question, but obviously Offset appreciated the answer you gave with regard to the Monero situation. So I just wanted to, in case you didn't see that in the chat.
I've spoken to Offset. A lot of the people you've got in here asking questions, I speak to quite frequently. I haven't spoke to some of these guys for a while, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
And this question I thought was like, you know, let's talk about off track a little bit there, you know?
No, really, how are you doing?
Well, I mean, to give you an idea, right? So I got up today at 8 in the morning. It's currently 1:15 midnight. I probably still won't get to bed till 2, 3 a.m. And then I'll be back up again for it all tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you.
It's I mean, I knew what I was signing up for. You know, I run my own UK business over here, and then I went and decided, oh yeah, I'll jump on another startup that's got incredible tech, and yeah, before I knew it, I'm doing 18 hours again, which I promised the wife I wouldn't do actually.
Yeah, we won't burn through all your time.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad because of the time difference for what we're doing here.
Oh, don't worry about
I
that.
appreciate you, man.
I'm used to working on American time more than UK time these days.
Now, I know way back one of the first questions was, you know, with regard to like you and Danielle, but thought maybe you want to.
Yeah, actually, I'm so going to get in trouble. So I'm heading over to Austria in probably 6 to 8 weeks to go obviously pick up my prototype or my actual chip. I believe I finally convinced the boss to give me chip number 1.
Nice.
Because I just wanted serial number 1.
Yeah.
Mainly because obviously I've got one of the original FPGAs that they started on as well. So I wanted to keep it a bit of
history. Reflection.
Yeah. But we're probably going to fly in most of the team for that. So there might be some opportunities for some rather large group photos.
Maybe a demonstration? I mean, you have it, right? So.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
Just saying, right? Just saying.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. There's going to be demonstrations for sure. How much of what we're going to demonstrate?
Right. Yeah. What exactly
we may not want to say too much because otherwise I might get too much trouble. But I know we definitely want to showcase the quantum encryption because the cards are going to be available, kind of thing. We need to start showing that off almost immediately. But the possibilities of what can be run on Apollo, well, everything that we've already put out that runs on the Dynex network could run on Apollo, except in one, which was my Sudoku when it goes up past like insane size. So like we were looking at a 64 by 64 celled Sudoku. So it's massive.
Yeah.
Right. Like normal computers would hate trying to run this. Unless you've got like a highly specific algorithm written for doing that kind of size. Mm-hmm. Quantum really does start to then take off with options for that. That needs probably next chip after Apollo to run that in that sort of scale and bigger. But like I say, it just all depends on where those benchmarks come back for Apollo. If they're showing what we think they're showing and it benchmarks in exactly where we expect it to, what we announced for Apollo, which is 1,000 qubits, might be a little bit bigger. So how much bigger? Well, I guess we're going to find out based on, we're going to benchmark 10 random samples and then we're going to see where they each come out, because it might be that we get some variance in how many qubits are on each chip. It might be that each chip gives us a completely different number, right? In which case, can we just guarantee it's going to be over 1,000? That's what we need to just double check. We need to validate in that scenario, but it looks very, very promising that it may actually be a little bit more.
Wow. Okay. That's something to look forward to.
And if, I fully expect my one to probably end up getting blown up, to be fair. Because I'm going to push mine to the absolute max. I'm going to be overvolting it. I'm going to be trying to overclock it.
Yeah, you can frame it after.
We need to see where the limits are. So
yeah, facts.
Absolutely. You definitely have to push it. Definitely.
Yeah. And TechMan, welcome.
I think a GT 1030 might be a little bit too old. I know that minimum for the Q node for GPU side is a 2060 at the moment. It may actually have to go up yet.
Okay.
But right now, we're going to try and allow as older a card as possible without it deteriorating the service. So if we can get away with keeping 20 series available for people, then that means, people even with older cards can still participate.
Wow.
Okay. Fair enough. And yes, amplifier gaming, it healthy is important. And I'm sure
that's why I took a nice 3-week vacation in the US. I looked at some houses with the plan to buy a house out there. So I travel over there so much. Like
you might as well just live here.
Yeah, exactly. Come on over. Oh man. And that I know we touched on Paragon already, and actually just again, but I just love the name from Base Zone. I had to bring it back. So.
No, it's a full real implementation. The plan is to align both sides, business and crypto, so that one is actually setting the value for the other. We believe we've got a $500 million piece of tech stack. And that's probably underestimating it, to be fair, given that, D-Wave has multi-billion-dollar valuation and IBM's even bigger than that. But, safely, let's just say 500 million, right? That's based what we should be, valued at based on our company. Well, how do we get the tie-in so that one side meets the other side? So our business valuation and everything like that matches our tech stack.
There you go.
So that's primarily what Paragon's about. There's obviously also things that are around transparency, and obviously, if everything goes to plan, by the end of the month, people should know a lot more about what is Paragon, what's it's about, why I've been so quiet for the last 6 months. Unfortunately, I've had to be very careful about what I've said, because I know what Paragon is. I have done since the first day that we spoke about it internally. But yeah, needless to say, it is a big change. It's a big move in the right direction as a business. And hopefully it should, please everyone once they hear everything that's going to happen, because it's going to happen quickly. It's not going to be it's not going to be like a huge, long roadmap in some regards. It's actually going to be a very streamlined process, because we've had time to get it organized, prepped, looked at, everything. So fingers crossed.
Have announcements been scheduled already, or
we're hoping that they will be ready? The announcements are ready. We've actually got them already prepped, ready.
Yeah.
We just haven't decided a definitive date yet. The reason for that is that there's still a couple of bits that are still very much up in the air that we're just tying off now, and there should be in by the end of this week, most of them. So that should then give us enough time to just go over everything once, final, check over everything, and then should be okay. I spoke to the boss this morning for a good 2 hours, and he's in the same mind thinking of the end of the month is the right day, but obviously something could crop up that we're not able to control.
Okay, so that's very soon. So announcement coming up soon then. That's great.
Fair enough. Now, this question, I'm glad John asked it. It was a follow-up question because we kind of discussed this in our last interview. Yeah. So have at it, Yeti.
It's actually a really good question, because I've always said I would love for Dynex to be not used by governments personally, right? Because there's always room for some form of abuse on that, or leverage that they'll try. You let us use it, or we'll ban you from being able to do business in the country, kind of thing. I don't want to go to war with a government, right? Over what is right and what is wrong, because what I think is right and wrong might be very different to what a government thinks is right and wrong. We're seeing that all over the world, even
especially in the UK.
Specifics, like the UK has its own set of problems right now.
It
really does. But without going into too much detail, but like I've had a couple of conversations with some people in the UK. I know that Daniella's had some conversations with the Swiss government as well, who are very, they've historically been very neutral in things. So, Swiss government might be the best option to, a very neutral government, like the idea of maybe we can help if we can. But we need to stay as much neutral as possible, because otherwise it gets
ugly pretty quick.
It gets cornered. They get us cornered into a position where we have no choice, and that's never a nice place to be in.
No.
Like, governments are the one quickest way to axe a business like you wouldn't believe.
So, absolutely, it gets very dangerous.
Can you? I'm not trying to get you to out anything here, obviously, but do you believe, let's put it that way, that the regulatory landscape, the interest of governments has increased since, let's say, our last conversation? Because this was something, again, we talked about in our last conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we've just seen within the last year, we've seen them want to do regulations on AI development, right? So that they can keep a bit closer eye on that. Now, AI is a really weird one, because there's so many definitions of what is AI.
True.
It needs a framework to be able to define it, right? That's it's not as black and white as, oh, your system runs quantum technology, right? Okay, well, it's just quantum then, right? Let's put a framework around quantum. But AI is so unique in the fact that it has a billion different niches involved in that, and there's even more that we can't even think of right now. that some sort of regulatory framework, and I hate regulation, right? I don't want to stifle innovation, but just a very loose framework that says you can go all the way to this point, but you can't overstep your boundaries.
Yeah.
I think it's very sensible, right? And we're going to see the same with quantum. We really are, right? We know that.
Oh, it's definitely needed. Yeah.
100% we know that at some point there is going to be quantum regulation.
Yeah.
110%. Like, I can already see that. A year ago, we were talking about that at some point there will be some form of regulatory body or regulatory framework to work around. But that's why we tried to stay ahead of that curve, right? That's why we did the ethics committee, to give ourselves that credibility to say that we're already trying to be as forward thinking as possible, so that we don't become on anyone's radar as a threat to any form of national security.
Right.
You know, that to me is important. And if you know, a government turns up and wants to have a conversation and they're worried, then I'll sit down with them, explain the technology, explain the stack and how everything works, and they'll be able to, you know, take it on from there. But I've had some really good conversations with a couple of big investment firms in the UK around, you know, quantum and regulatory frameworks, and because they're using quantum algorithms and they want to stay ahead of the curve, right? I've known this man for years. This man's like one of my closest business associates that I've ever had in the UK, and he knows what he's talking about, right? And the people he involves himself around, and those people will, you know, they all earn 7-8 figures a year a piece. So of course I'm going to listen to what their ideas are, right, and put my ideas forward as well. And we're all along the same consensus. At some point there's going to be a framework for it.
Okay. So I mean, like you guys are saying, I definitely think it's going to be a necessity no matter what. The thing that concerns me about it, and again, maybe I just got my tin foil still on my head, is how it's made up. How, you know, who, because, you know, people are going to be jockeying for influence in that position there. So
I would look at it this way. Right now, there's enough companies to make it unbiased, and there's not too many companies to have too many opinions on the framework, right? So you could literally invite one of every, like a representative from every quantum company right now, right, and I'm pretty sure we'd get a loose framework. Would it be perfect? Probably not, right?
Right.
You just need a starting point.
At least be a starting point.
Yeah.
And I would wholeheartedly support that personally, because that's the right way of doing it. Bring all the people in that are currently building that technology, then bring in some developers that are working with that technology, and before you know it, you'll have a fairly comprehensive framework, but it will still need more further down the road, right? From people maybe that even don't have a quantum experience, so that they can look at the differences. I look at it from a technical perspective, right? You might look at it from somewhere different. So of course, having both those opinions and both of those views will be very important to build any kind of framework.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for indulging me in that question.
No, absolutely.
Now, I get it. I don't know the answer to this question, but I got to believe there's a lot of qubits going on in that brain of yours there.
No, like, I was having this conversation with my mum the other day. She's like, I don't know how you keep it all in your head. Like, I write like 8 different coding languages. I decided to learn quantum and quantum mechanics and quantum coding in 12 months. I learned that enough to get myself by and continue now. But, you know, I just, at times I even look at myself and go, how much I've got left up there to store more stuff. Not quite sure I've got much left. And I tell you, it's a lot harder learning when you're nearly 40 than when you're like 20. Facts. So, you know, back when I was like 19, 20, I learned 6 different coding languages in a year. Now, you know, it takes me a year to learn one. So, you know.
All right. Well, it looks like we're winding down on questions, which is good because we're an hour and a half in here. Now, we did talk about buybacks already, but the partnership piece was the thing that kind of caught my eye.
I know why that's our staff member.
He is okay.
He's poking it.
Yeah, he's trying to get me in more trouble. Oh dear. Partnerships, we've got some really interesting ones in the pipeline right now. One of them is huge. Took me and Dan, before he passed, a year to get the project, like, even to a point where they would do a proof of concept with us. The amount of red tape we had to go through to get it is a big testament to what Dan and I put in. You know, many hours and very late nights or very early mornings for Dan, depending on which side of the pond we were talking to at the time. But they're not a small company. They are massive.
Okay. We're not going to see who they are.
To the point that actually they're going to write a joint white paper with us on the program we're writing with them.
Okay.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's a way away yet. It's not going to be tomorrow, that's for sure. You know, if it took me a year to get the proof of concept through, you can imagine how long it's going to take us before it's going to be the same sort of principle. Another year before we're ready, and people are talking about it and everything like that. So, but to me, I've pushed hard to do this one, not only because obviously, you know, losing Dan was a big hit to everyone, personally and professionally, but for me, it's my way of sort of honoring him as well. As, look, you know, we did this together, and now I'm going to make sure it gets done. And everyone in the company agrees that, you know, this one's important to us a bit more than maybe most of them, because it was the one big client that Dan had been working on with me for months and months. So
okay, fair enough. And John has one more question here. There is some prejudice. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong at all. The conversations I have had have been wide-ranging. So from skeptics to people that are all for it, for, you know, the love of the technology kind of thing. I've had every end of that scale conversation with people, and you're not wrong. There is a lot of prejudice around quantum technology at the moment. Some people say it's not anywhere close for 10, 20 years. Other people have been saying that it's, you know, 5 years away for 5 years. So, you know, like, there's a wide scope at the moment with it. And the way I deal with it is the best way to deal with any of that is prove the technology is real, for one, and then prove it's safe to use for another. If you can prove both of those, it's very hard for anyone to have a prejudice against it. Obviously, they can get very worried about their own self-being.
Yes.
But if you look at the bigger picture and not just only about the single individual, that's where you can start to see that there are things that quantum could actually help with, not just hinder. So, you know, yes, there might be a problem that people could use quantum to break, you know, encryption. But what if there's new methodologies for next generation, so what would be quantum encryption? And suddenly now that opens up a whole new avenue, not only for, you know, for us, it could open up doors for other people. It could open up new jobs, new lines of research. You know, it could be massive. It could be a brand new industry being born effectively. And that's super interesting to me and super exciting, because there's not many times in history you can actually be at the beginning of a brand new start of something, right? I liken this to like when my mum grew up and watched like the computers start from very early on all the way to now. She's going to be lucky enough to probably see from start to current before she passes, right? So yeah, like it's like no different than my parents getting to see us go to the moon.
Yeah,
I never got to see
full
that.
cycle. Absolutely.
Probably going to get to see it soon because they go, you know, they're going back soon. But like for me, it's something new and exciting, and and that's always something that keeps that motivation going. You know, you can very easily lose motivation in work, especially if it's too boring. That's why I do development, right? Never a dull moment.
It's never a dull moment. Yeah,
no.
There's always
I'm moving my hair at a rapid rate. But
just one hair at a time, right?
Oh yeah, no. It's big clumps now. It's not small little bits anymore. Not like it was 10 years ago where I'd see the odd hair drop out. Now it's like I wake up and there's a patch of hair on the pillow.
Okay.
So it's going. Hey, I've not met a coder that isn't going bald.
That's actually true.
Like, if you look at all the coders that you can find online, most of them are going bald in some form or fashion.
Yeah, there you go. And he's poking at you again. I think it's so funny. But just so you know, we have gotten to the end of all the questions, and thank you to everybody.
And I actually think I kept it below 2 hours this time, so I'm
doing yes. It was still a bit of a marathon session. I love it, and I will say that you between the everybody in the chat and everything that you said, he's literally. I came with a group of questions. I showed Jar and Jar's. Like, you know what I mean? And you like literally answered them all. So thank you for that.
No, absolutely. I try and answer as many questions as I can because, you know, education is just as important as the tech. If nobody gets educated, you can't understand the tech, and if you can't understand the tech, well, then we've done our job wrong. To be quite honest,
true.
You know?
No, facts. Yeah, facts.
Especially in this space where everything's unknown to most 100%. People. Yeah, it's a lot of learning to do here. We definitely appreciate your time. And anybody who just joined, it looks like a couple people just came in right now.
People did.
Don't worry, just subscribe to the channel. You can roll it back. We had a very interesting conversation about
amazing conversation.
Well, I'm sure that you guys would probably want to do a part 2 when the chip fully releases.
Yes,
you'll hear from us.
To be able to show you. I'm sure that we can work out a part 2.
I'd love to do that. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll reach out to you when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Any last things you want to throw out there, Yetis? You're the guest.
I mean, obviously, we've got Paragon at the end of the month. If everything goes to plan, best place to keep updated for that is either on our social medias or Discord. Is you know all the time. Very busy these days. Our tech man Ty just literally threw a quick one out there. I will answer that one. When more wallet audits from Yeti Audits, you might see a new system come about that actually will leverage Dynex's network to do live on the spot wallet auditing using a quantum diffusion large language model to do it. So the idea would be is that then I don't have to do the audits. You'll be able to actually do them yourselves.
Wow.
And then anything that gets flagged that needs manual intervention, then obviously I go along and with Serpent and we'll pick up the ones that have been flagged manually. But ultimately there'll be a whole entire solution built around wallet auditing, virus scanning, the whole 9 yards. We're able to do all of that internally and build it quite nicely. I mean, I've shown a couple of demonstrations of where Yeti Audits was like a year ago. It's way beyond that now, way beyond that.
Awesome.
So I'll keep everyone up to date on that one a little bit more as soon as it's available, but I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few people offering to test it for us because that's a whole new option set to make people safe. You know, that's the whole idea, is just keeping people more safe, people, you know, not losing their funds, not getting hacked, not getting wallets drained because they've downloaded another wallet that they want to look at. You know, it happens way too much. It's what kick-started Yeti Audits, like actually doing it. And now it's the next iteration. And with the amount of requests I get for wallet audits now, it's uncontrollable. Last count, it's over 1,000 requests a week.
Holy crap!
How many? Okay, geez.
There's a lot of duplicates, but yeah, like it's 1,000 requests a week at the moment.
That's a lot. Okay.
So, including one rather large script wallet. I haven't really talked about that, but that's that's been something that's been in the back end for like 6 months. Yeah, I've been working with a script wallet privately to do their code.
I'm patiently waiting for a few years.
I love Tech Man.
I'll send you guys the link over in a minute for you, and then you can take a look.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's literally ready to launch.
Okay, excellent.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I also linked the Discord in the comments if anyone wants to jump in there and ask more questions.
Appreciate it.
Yes, by all means. And John, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Your great questions. Everybody had great questions tonight. So Yeti, we're gonna give you the last word. You got it, brother.
Let's say, if you haven't already subscribed to Dynex's socials, I would highly recommend it. It's quite a lot of stuff that goes on there. There's a whole bunch of information on our website, white papers that we've written. The new third-party validation should be on the website. If it's not, it's definitely on our social medias. If it's not on the website, I'll get it added. But also, guys, make sure you like and subscribe to these guys, because they spend the time doing the work. So
yeah, we appreciate it. We appreciate you as well, Yeti. So maybe in a month or two, we might have you back on after this
100%.
demonstration, and
100%.
we'll
Absolutely.
take it from there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Excellent.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here, and we're going to head out. Thank you again to Yeti. Again, the time difference, I know it, man, but thank you.
Yeti's got to sleep.
yeah, you got to sleep at some point. All right.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great
night. See you guys
night.
next week. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.